All right, folks, welcome to episode 3 of NLPR. I am Jack, your host. This film is centered around drama and music. My video essay, however, is going to center on the famous dinner scene and how it connects to other fragments of the movie itself. So, with this famous dinner scene, Andrew feels immediately overlooked, which he is, and gets into a debate with his family. But first, he is asked about his drumming, and as he is speaking, the cousins come in and immediately steal the spotlight. And as they sit down, a very key thing happens. The aunt and uncle point out the more socially accepted success stories at the table, like Travis got named this year's MVP, Dustin is heading up Model UN, and Jim, his dad, got Teacher of the Year award. And then it is said, and Andy, with your drumming. That last line, the timing and tone is what makes it very important. Like they acknowledge Andrew's talent, but don't highlight the success nearly as much as the frequent talents of sports and the corporate ladder. So we see this point a lot in a different sense when it comes to the core drummer, Tanner, who is constantly dismissing Andrew as much as he can. And then, of course, with Fletcher's verbal abuse. One of the only places we don't see any dismissal is from Nicole. It's almost like a way to say to the audience that the good things in life are often overlooked due to not bringing much importance. Now, why is that? Well, it's a tough question in philosophy and life, and maybe the answer is an Occam's razor, like simply because life is unfair. That's probably all there is to it, and that's probably the only answer we have. And then Andrew's cousin Travis says something snarky, but also a bit honest. How do you know who wins in a music competition? Isn't it subjective? Well, in a way, he technically isn't wrong. Art is subjective. Like, I enjoy metal music and I can't stand country music myself. Someone else likes only one song from the metal genre, but stays in the country genre. And that's okay. That is what subjective is and what it means, ultimately. And then Andrew saying no to him, it is not entirely wrong either, but there's lots of explanation as to why it is and is not subjective. We literally see it at the competition where the folder goes missing and whatever. Because maybe they would still have lost with or without Andrew stepping in. So the point that I am ultimately trying to get across is that subjective is what chance is made of when judging comes into play. And then the uncle comes in and says, well, I am so glad you figured it out. It's a nasty business, I am sure. And while Andrew looks at his dad's face, he sees that it's the face of saying, this isn't understood by me, let alone them, and you're not creating a legacy for this family. Then the uncle immediately hypes up Travis about his sports, and Andrew hides his frustration, but not very well, as we can see. And this feeling he has is immediately contradicted or arguably proven wrong when Andrew's dad watches his drum solo at the finale because the look on his face says, holy shit. And then, of course, Andrew gets fed up and chuckles, it's Division 3. And the whole table goes quiet like they heard the police just pull up in the driveway. So now the ignition for the fight is lit and ready to go. And then we, of course, witness the uncle take a solid jab at Andrew, saying, you got any friends, Andy? And it's a nice warm up shot at the neck to hurt feelings, because the uncle values sports which are primarily immeasurable over music which is only a little measurable. Andrew says, no. And then the uncle says, why is that? Andrew says, a bit sheepishly, I don't know. I never saw the use. And then the uncle comes in with a deeper jab while the dad looks very let down with Andrew. He asks, well, who are you going to play with otherwise? And then Andrew says, well, Charlie Parker didn't know anybody till Joe Jones threw a cymbal at his head. Now, this is very important dialogue because in actual history of Charlie Parker's life, the cymbal wasn't thrown at Parker's head. It was at his feet. Andrew is saying it was thrown at his head because that is what Fletcher did to him. So then the uncle comes in again and says, "So that's your idea of success, huh?" And the uncle says it in a way that's very condescending in the tone because he knows one of his points is now flat. Andrew comes back with, "I think being the greatest musician of the 20th century is anybody's idea of success." Now, good key things here. First, an NLPR move. Joe Jones is not a character in this film, yet it becomes clear that it's like a live action play about Charlie Parker's life, which involves Joe Jones. Fletcher is played by J.K. Simmons. He himself played the role of J. Jonah Jameson in Sam Raimi's Spider Man trilogy. And so it seems like the casting choice for Simmons was both coincidental and aligned with fate. All right, back to it. When the uncle asks Andrew if he has any friends, many people that know about Andrew's pursuit of greatness, especially when it isn't a normal pursuit or widely understood by others, knows what it's like when someone says this, whether it's a genuine question or an attack on them. It's because having friends or a social circle is seen as progress, and in a way, it is. Humans are social creatures. But it's not that Andrew doesn't want friends. It's just that he knows, along with every other pursuer of greatness, that lots of times a social circle slows you down or holds you back. And that is for many reasons. So, the point that I am saying with this is that people who want to be great eventually are hit with the cost of it. And then it gets more heated. When Andrew admits to having no friends, the uncle says, "Well, who are you going to play with otherwise?" And in a way, he is making a fair point, but it loses its weight when you realize that, solo music artists exist. And then Andrew comes in with a good point too. Well, Charlie Parker didn't know anybody till Joe Jones threw a symbol at his head. And this is very important because the symbol wasn't thrown at his head, like I said. It was at his feet. He said his head because that's what Fletcher did to him instead. But this is more evidence to support the theory that Whiplash is actually a film depicting the modern Charlie Parker being produced. And right here we have such great dialogue. The dad says, "Dying broke, drunk, and full of heroin at the age of 34 is not exactly my idea of success." Now, the dad isn't wrong for thinking this, yet what he's doing is that he's minimizing Charlie Parker's legacy in any way that he can. And many people do this because they're trying to make an opposition point look less than their point of what they're saying. Then Andrew says, "I'd rather die drunk and broke at 34 and have people at a dinner table talk about me than to be rich and sober at 90 and nobody remember who I was." Now, that last thing that Andrew says, to me, that is a testament to art. We have lost so many great artists far too young. And with history, Charlie Parker did pass away at 34. And with art itself, while it's a tragedy to die very young, it also helps shine light on what artists, particularly musicians, accomplish. Like, for starters, Kurt Cobain died before he was 30, yet Nirvana is still widely appreciated to this day and gave birth to a whole genre of music. Chester Bennington passed away at 41, and his legacy for vocals in the legendary band Linkin Park gave way to so many other bands. When he passed away, the Hollywood Bowl held a concert in his memory on October 27, 2017, and it was a sold out tribute in a 3 hour show, which is just unheard of. So to have a legacy so impactful that a 3 hour show is played in memory and is sold out is just magnificent. And then with Queen, where do you even start with that? It's been decades since Freddie Mercury passed away, yet Queen is impactful long after. They still play shows to this day. The biopic Bohemian Rhapsody made nearly 18 times its initial budget back. And their music to this day is played in stores and even featured in video games such as Grand Theft Auto 5. And the people who don't even like the band still like at least one of their hit songs, guaranteed. And similar to Queen, the literal legend, King of Pop, Michael Jackson. Even people who do not like pop music all that much still loves at least a handful of his songs. People in villages without electricity or TVs or any connection to the world much, they knew who Michael Jackson was. There is too much to list about him here, but he is the father of pop music in a way, if not all the way. And Elvis Presley, the king of rock. Decades after his death, they still made multiple films about his life. They still play his music in some places as ambience. Some women still fall in love with some men just for resembling him. Or a big jump to Slipknot with Paul Gray. They carried on the band after his death in 2010 and still play huge concerts while leading Knotfest. I will admit I'm not too well versed in what happened, but I do like Slipknot's discography. And then we have Tupac Shakur. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right, but again, I am not well versed with him. But he deserves this spotlight because we lost him far too young. And with the black community, he is deeply loved. His quotes and music still impact everybody who listens to him to this day. And Avenged Sevenfold, Jimmy the Rev Sullivan, one of the top 10, if not top 5 drummers of his lifetime. I have listened to them a lot, and I will always appreciate the sound of their self-titled 2007 album. Shortly after, though, he passed away, and his impact reached me only after I discovered them in 2013 with Hail to the King. And then we got Prince, another icon from the black community. I only know a few songs by him, but his Super Bowl halftime performance is regarded as they played football at a Prince concert. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a story of when he was on his way to that performance and someone called him saying, "It is raining really hard out here." And Prince responded with saying, "Can you make it rain harder?" The last one I can think of is Metallica when they lost Cliff Burton. Everybody knows Metallica one way or another. Everybody does. They are still to this day legendary, and even to this day, people say if Cliff were still here, Metallica could have made even more history, but we'll never know that. Alright, back to it. So Andrew comes back and says, "I'd rather die drunk and broke at 34 and have people at a dinner table talk about me than to be rich and sober at 90 and nobody remembered who I was." And this is a great comeback because they're literally talking about Charlie Parker while also trying to actively minimize him simply because the others are focused on measured optics like, sports. Now, let's be a bit honest here. Sports are a bit subjective, but art is primarily subjective. So, what is happening is that the family at the table is more focused on careers that have guaranteed safety nets because failure means you're okay, but risk and reward is too scary because it means losing friends in the eyes of conservatives or those who are too scared to take a leap. And then this guy comes in and says, "Ah, but your friends will remember you. That's the point." Now, this is like, and like retaliation is what he's trying to do to Andrew. And then Andrew says, "None of us were friends with Charlie Parker. That's the point." Now, Andrew isn't necessarily wrong, but Parker died decades before this film released. And then the uncle comes again saying, "Travis and Dustin, they have plenty of friends and plenty of purpose." Now, this is a stab at those who don't have that particular social status or friend circle. Because when you have a social circle, it is seen as desirable or that people can put trust into your character. And due to Andrew not having much of any social circle to begin with, the uncle jabbed at it because it is quietly calling Andrew and those like him to be losers, pretty much. And then Andrew with the, "I'm sure they'll make great school board presidents." And that line does hit a nerve with Travis, obviously. So Travis is like, "Oh, is that it? You think you're better than us?" And that reaction is evidence that Andrew hits that nerve like clockwork. "Catch on quick. Are you in Model UN?" And of course, this is a solid shot again from Andrew. "I got a reply for you, Andrew. Think Colton is a joke? Come play with us." Now, they have been successfully rage baited. And then the ultimate mic drop. "Four words you will never hear from the NFL" by Andrew. And to me, I gotta say, like a sports cast or whatever it is, what a jugular shot. And then the dad comes in with the same jugular kill shot to Andrew with, Heard from Lincoln Center. And as you can tell, there's still much more to unpack from all this. Andrew keeps noticing his dad's facial expressions. They're saying that he's disappointed and that he can't talk about Andrew's accomplishments due to not understanding or feeling a point to them. But that in reality is false. Parents can absolutely not understand, yet still be proud. They can bring up their child and say, "Why don't you explain this? I love it, but I don't quite understand it." We see later on that the dad watches Andrew get humiliated off the stage and then come back to get revenge on Fletcher. The drum solo he does then leaves the dad in complete awe. So it's more of a symbolic thing that first his dad wasn't approving of Andrew's drumming and now is like, holy shit. Now, even if most of you haven't, I have been looking forward to covering this iconic scene that gets referenced and turned into a meme to this day. I noticed how there is a black man sitting behind Andrew during this scene, and Charlie Parker was a black man and a very famous musician. So it's like an invisible interpretation of Charlie Parker himself. So what I am gathering is that Andrew is almost like an homage to Parker's legacy in this film, if you will. Some concrete evidence to this is that the guy in the background is never named. He's playing a guitar, but we literally hear no guitar in the band as if he is currently invisible to the world. So now we see with the tempo, Fletcher is fucking around with Andrew, right? And the other drummer has a new look on his face. It's a bit unclear, but the look on his face suggests that he's saying, "You're about to be indoctrinated into this group." And we kind of get that proven because Fletcher throws a chair at Andrew's head. In the actual history of Charlie Parker, he went through something similar with this. Joe Jones threw a sample at Parker's feet because it says that, disgusted with 17-year-old Charlie's inability to keep up, he threw a cymbal at his feet. Now, Fletcher is in Andrew's face all aggressive. It's framed as just the two of them. No band or Charlie Parker interpretation in the blurred corner, as if Parker himself is right there happening again as Andrew. We find out the other pretentious drummer is Carl. As Fletcher walks away, the band and the background guy come back into view. And it's clear that the band understands this is how Fletcher regularly operates due to them letting him continue this yelling over the years. Andrew focuses on practicing his drumming in a hardcore fashion, and I actually love the imagery of the injuries and the bandages that Andrew faces because it reminds me of my time playing guitar and what, the prime of that looks like. And then I jump right back into my personal favorite scene, where Fletcher is testing Andrew Connolly and Tanner on the kit to see who can nail his next part. I also just noticed how primarily Fletcher only addresses Andrew by first name, or just addresses Andrew himself. The other two drummers are both last name bases for him right now.
Nope, I guess not. Tanner?
So anyways, for me, it's the insults that Fletcher delivers. It's like an homage to Full Metal Jacket, yet it fits Fletcher's character so well because the whole film, Fletcher has been yelling and insulting everyone the way that he still does. So here's the famous section. Kicks off with Fletcher yelling,
Motherfucker! We will stay here for as long as it takes until one of you faggots can play in time.
and while what Fletcher says is horrific, I cannot lie that Simmons' delivery was hilarious, as Fletcher immediately pointed out.
Looks like that might be all night. Neiman? Connolly, get your ass back on the kit.
Just too funny.
1, 2, not the fucking temple! Is that really the fastest you can play, you worthless Jaime fuck?
Now, here's the thing. I did not know that that was a Jewish slur, but now I do. I had to research it because I knew it was a jab at something because that's how Fletcher insults people. But now I know. So Next up.
And here comes Mr. Gay Pride of the Upper West Side himself.
These line deliveries are just too goddamn funny. This is definitely one of the funniest lines in the film that not only feels improvised, but inspired by Full Metal Jacket.
How tall are you, Private?
Sir, 5'9", sir!
5'9". I didn't know they stacked shit that high. See your war face.
Unfortunately, this is not a Bette Midler concert. We will not be serving Cosmopolitans in Baked Alaska, so just play faster than you give fucking hand jobs, will you please? 1, 2, 1, 2.
And right here, the face Andrew gives here is borderline just delicious. It's similar to James McAvoy's face when he finally fights the mechanic in Wanted.
Fucking close. Let's go with the Irish Mick fucking patty cracker now. You know, you actually do look quite a bit like a leprechaun. I think I'm gonna start calling you Flannery.
Christ, these are too funny.
What the fuck are you looking for? There's no pot of gold down there. Are you adjusting the seat, really? That's been your fucking problem the whole time, the seat height. So now you have it, right? Go.
Now, while I was writing this essay script, weeks ago, and maybe while I record the video, I am still laughing at this one, and I'm listening to ambience. Not even the clip, just the way that Fletcher just goes, bullshit, fuck you. It's just, I don't know. It's just purely, J.K. Simmons' delivery on these lines is too goddamn good. I love it. And in a way, I believe that Connolly adjusting the seat height is like the Folder situation for Andrew. It gave Andrew the spotlight for brief moments and succeeded.
Don't slow down.
Pick it up! Faster!
Now, we're jumping back quite a bit in the film, where Fletcher focuses on the girl in the first chair and says, well, you're in the first chair, let's see if it's just because you're cute. Then she plays for a second, and he says, yep, that's why. So I thought that was a funny starting jab.
Okay, all right. Well, you're in the first chair. Let's see if it's just because you're cute. 3, 4. Yep, that's why.
And this little detail where Fletcher is looking through the class signage or whatever it is and scoffs. Cute.
Cute. Down the line.
And then the clock hits exactly 9 a.m. and Fletcher walks into the room. All the students stand up fast and erect like it is in the military. And this feels referential to Top Gun Maverick that Miles Teller starred in. But that's ironic because this film was released 8 years prior to that film. So...
Start counting. 5, 6, 7, 4, damn it! Look at me! 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then why the fuck didn't you say so?
Metz, why are you still sitting there? Get the fuck out! Out! Why? Oh, what the fuck out?
I will always laugh at this Fletcher insult delivery every single time.
Cannot do, you fucking weepy willow shit sack.
Now, I have to admit, this is my favorite insult of the entire movie. The tone, the volume, just the delivery, everything is too goddamn funny about it.
You got 10 minutes, you fucking pathetic pansy-ass fruit fuck.
And then the explosive part of the film happens. Andrew is hit by a semi-truck. And here's what's amazing, at least symbolically. Fletcher claims that Sean Casey died in a car accident, but we discover he actually killed himself due to Fletcher's abuse. And so in a way, this is like Andrew becoming the next Sean Parker, a mix of Sean Casey and Charlie Parker. And a little fun fact that people probably do or don't know is that during the actual filming of this scene where they tackle each other, J.K. Simmons actually suffered a cracked rib from that. And then we learn that from Andrew's lawyer that Sean Casey actually hanged himself, contrary to what Fletcher said, which was that he was hit by a car or whatever. The lawyer encourages Andrew to take legal action against Fletcher since Casey's family is not able to financially. Andrew's dad explains how he would never let someone get away with putting his son through hell, and it's a sharp contrast from the dinner scene where the dad made himself small to avoid arbitrary embarrassment. Now, I am not a parent, but I think parents can attest to this feeling, and everybody has had someone in their life that acted one way around one group of people and a completely different way around another. It's a human thing, although it's frustrating. And then at this local jazz club festival, Andrew finds out that Fletcher is a special guest there, and basically, this is after Andrew agrees to speak up against Fletcher in the court. And here, Fletcher confesses that he's not at Schaefer anymore. Fletcher explains that what he was trying to do at Schaefer, he was trying to push people past what's expected of them, because he believes if people don't do that to themselves, it takes away a potential greatness from the world. And the story of Charlie Parker here is fleshed out. However, the key is that Fletcher explains that when Parker was humiliated off the stage, he practiced hard and then got on a stage a year later and did the world's best solo ever heard. And then says, there are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job. Such a great quote, because it speaks to the point that success actually makes people stop growing. It makes them comfortable. It's not that it is bad to say good job to somebody, it's what that person does with the words that makes a difference. But isn't there a line, maybe you go too far and you discourage the next Charlie Parker from ever becoming Charlie Parker? No, man, no. Because the next Charlie Parker would never be discouraged. This is in the top 3 best points of the entire film. That the next great pushes themselves past discouragement because they believe they can achieve something that transcends time. It is not about discouragement. It's about how bad that next great wants something more than discouragement yells at them to stop. I never really had a Charlie Parker, but I tried. I actually fucking tried. And that's more than most people ever do, and I will never apologize for how I tried. This is crucial. Fletcher isn't saying, or is wrong for saying, that most people never try. That itself is 100% true. Too many people never try because they're too scared for a number of reasons. And you should not be scared for how you tried, let alone trying by itself. But where Fletcher is objectively wrong was all his screaming and abuse to get his goal straight. Because with objectiveness, since he never found his Charlie Parker, he does owe an apology to somebody since he did not succeed. And maybe that's himself or the students he hurt. But at this point in time, it doesn't matter. Fletcher says that the drummer for his JVC band is not making the cut. Andrew says, well, what about Ryan Connolly? And Fletcher says, all Connolly ever was to me was incentive for you. And then he says that Tanner switched to pre-med and is like, I guess he got discouraged. And I think it points to not that Tanner was a bad drummer, but he just didn't have the proper firefight within him for trials and tribulations. So now Fletcher explains that tonight could change lives, and that these cats don't forget. Then Fletcher whispers to Andrew that he knows it was Andrew who got him fired from Schaefer. Then Andrew realizes Fletcher is about to ambush him. And the whole band puts their eyes on Andrew, and they don't know Fletcher's plan against him. And then Fletcher's like, well, I guess maybe you don't have it, and he's just taunting him. And then Andrew goes to his dad, and he's encouraged to just come home, but he refuses and it marches right back on stage. He gets right back on the kit, locks eyes with Fletcher, and then begins playing miraculously. And Andrew mouths, fuck you at Fletcher, and then Fletcher comes up and whispers to Andrew, I will gouge out your motherfucking eyes. And Andrew in reply just hits a cymbal right in Fletcher's face. And now here, the camera work from Fletcher to Andrew is exactly like the scene in La La Land, which both are directed by Damien Chazelle. And it's funny again because like similar to Top Gun Maverick, La La Land was released 2 years after this movie was released. And then Andrew goes off on his own amazing drum solo, as we see, and the camera work at the end is so close and intimately intense, and it just really pulls you in because it makes Dad, from Andrew's point of view, Andrew's dad stares at him in awe. Then the tempo slowly builds, and then Fletcher and Andrew are in flow state, and then they both lock eyes, smiling, and then that's it.
One more thing, Eugene, give me that. If I ever find one of these lying around again, I swear to fucking God, I will stop being so polite. Get the
Fuck out of my sight before I demolish you.
stage right in order now. I can still
Don't fucking see you, Mini-Me!